Several militancy groups have been involved in the bombing of the nation's oil facilities, especially since the present administration resumed office. They are calling for proper development of the region. The Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs is charged with the responsibility of coordinating efforts to tackle the challenges of development, environmental protection, and youth empowerment in the region, and the minister is my guest on this week's edition of the program. Hello there. Thank you for joining me on the program this week. I'm Gloria Umezuke. Amidst calls for truce and ceasefire, militants in the Niger Delta have not stopped blowing up pipelines in a bid to draw attention to the demands for the development of the Niger Delta region. However, the federal government says steps are being taken to engage the militants and address the development in the area. In our interview this week, we'll be talking about issues and challenges in the region. But coming up next, traditional rulers from the Niger Delta met with the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and stated what they regard as the terms that would build confidence as well as restore peace in the region. But this is a follow-up to the ceasefire announced by some militant groups in the region. Take a listen. It's been over 8 months of attacks on the nation's oil facilities by militants in the Niger Delta, which has led to over 60% drop in the nation's oil revenues. Recently, various groups of militants have declared their intention to enter a dialogue with the federal government after declaring a ceasefire, although there are still fresh attacks on oil pipelines. Nevertheless, traditional rulers from the Niger Delta region met with the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, where they gave the terms for peace to return to the region.
For the purposes of building confidence in the system, we wish to state here that as a matter of urgency, the federal government should do the following: appoint, constitute a federal government dialogue team. 2. Release of the 10 innocent school children arrested by the Nigerian Army on the 28th May 2016 in Okorosa and others in detention on trumped-up charges. 3. Return of golden sword, being the symbol of authority of Gwarmatu traditional institution. 4. Return the 3 traditional council speedboats in custody of the Nigerian Army. 5. Cessation of hostilities perpetuated by the military in the Niger Delta region till today. Equally important, the federal government should make a categorical statement about the opening of the Marine University of Kerekoko for academic studies 2016-17 session.
We wouldn't want anything that will rock the boat by way of the rumors we are hearing that the military will soon go on some exercise in the Niger Delta, especially in Delta State. So further exercise at this time that we are getting out of the tunnel of crisis would aggravate and would bring the people to apprehension.
According to the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, the over $40 billion investment in the region over the past 10 years is yet to yield the desired result, and that is because of the destruction of oil facilities in the region.
Our oil companies and everybody else must begin to play their role in the community so that we can move forward. Government obviously will engage and try and play its own role. But there is in fact an urgency of yesterday, not of now, in terms of the issues that we face today. So I do urge you, along the work that you've done, to continue to reach out to whichever splinter groups have not yet come away to announce and complement into the ceasefire, that they must immediately engage. The solution to the Niger Delta crisis, it's not by force of arms. It's not by force of arms from the militants, and it's not by force of arms, hopefully, from the federal government. The first is to engage, but engagement can only take place when there is an environment to engage. A government has an abiding responsibility to maintain peace in an area and cannot let itself just sit back and do nothing when there's no peace. But again, I think because Niger Delta issue has gone on for so long, over 30 years, it has left the citadel of brutality of militancy. It must therefore go to the negotiation table with the same aggressiveness that you apply in militancy in the creeks.
The devastation in the region is huge and impacting the entire nation. The land that lays the golden egg is searching for peace. Peace that is lasting and sustainable. I had a conversation with the Minister, Usani Uguru Usani, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, on issues concerning the region, including plans to negotiate with the militants. Watch. Mr. Usani Uguru Usani, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Let's talk now about the militants who have finally agreed to cease fire in spite of all the attacks. Let's understand, what was your initial reaction to this?
Before I tell you about my initial reaction and even the current reaction, the question of militancy continually coming upon us as a ministry is a greatly misplaced adventure, because we have an intervening policy role on security in the region, but it's not primarily our duty. And so, in spite of the fact that we play a role, the expectation that we are expected to stem it by precise intervention is not properly placed.
But you would agree that whenever we hear Niger Delta Avengers and we have a ministry of Niger Delta, what comes to mind?
That's why I said by policy.
Yes.
We have prescriptions concerning those things. And that is why I'm not saying that it is totally out of our place to function in terms of the security realm. But to suggest that it's our sole responsibility to deal with the situation is not really so. Nonetheless, what comes to mind immediately is that what comes to the mind of every right-thinking Nigerian or even human being. Because violence anywhere, anytime is not the right way of life. So readily, anybody who should think like a human being and live right should abhor violence. So what comes to mind is that it is distressing, because especially with the passion of being part of that region, it destroys the environment, which is a source of livelihood for the majority of the people there. So I feel sad, to say the least.
You feel sad about what?
When I hear about the militancy, the violence in the region, I feel sad.
Did they put up some conditions? You know, they said in agreeing with this deal, they expect a genuine and positive attitude from the government, you know, and then also went into a series of other conditions. Now we're wondering what sort of approach would the government adopt this time around to make sure this happens?
If they put up conditions, it means the discussions will determine what happens afterward. It's very complex at this stage to make categorical statements about whatever dialogue is going on or even negotiations. It's very complex because everything about the situation is reactionary, from sources known, unknown, genuine, and otherwise.
But there will be negotiations.
You should know better than I do that you are the ones who tell us who they nominate to negotiate on their behalf. For government, it is very clear. We have said every Nigerian, whatever circumstances there are determining his activities or disposition, the government is willing and ready to discuss. So that's the position of government.